This podcast is brought to you by Chimby.com, the career advice search engine. Go to Chimby.com to find out more. That's CHIMBY.com. Okay, this is CM Russell, and we're here at the Career Directors International Conference for Career Professionals. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm sitting down today with Barbara Safani. She's the owner of Career Solvers, has over 10 years experience in career management, recruiting, executive coaching, and she works with job seekers on their resume development, job search strategies, networking, interviewing, and salary negotiation skills. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you.
Okay. So we just heard you talk about networking strategies for the 21st century. Why do you think so many people out there hate the word networking? And what do you tell them when they say that to you?
I think it's interesting when I talk to people, most of them will say to me, I'm very introverted. And I think really what they're saying is that they're not comfortable asking for help. I think a lot of people feel that when they're networking, they're asking for something. And they don't recognize that really what they're doing is building a relationship. So there's just this discomfort level with putting themselves out there, and they feel very vulnerable about it. But once we start working with them and making them better recognize what networking is, that it's about building a relationship, that it's not about asking for something, but sharing information, then they start being a little more comfortable with the process.
What's a typical client like for you? How do you manage the process with them on a weekly basis? Or can you explain about how you actually work with a client?
Sure. Typically, the first few sessions revolve around teaching them what networking is and what it isn't, so that we can get buy-in from them and that we can grow a comfort level there. Once we have that established, then we can start looking at different strategies for their networking. We will often start with, who do you know? Who's in your immediate world? Who are your friends, your family, people in your community that you can start reaching out to? Then we build on that to see who the person knows that might be connected in the company communities that the person is interested in. And from there, we look at ways to get to the next level of contact, which would be the hiring manager. So throughout the process, we try to integrate face-to-face networking with online-type networking venues to get them entrenched in the process.
And how long do you typically work with a job seeker?
It depends. A client program can range anywhere from a few sessions to a year. And so it really depends on the client, what their goals are. We do find that with networking, the people who embrace the concept of networking earlier tend to have more successful searches, so that sort of makes their search a little bit shorter. And I also find that the people who come to me that already have somewhat of an established network can accelerate the process faster because they have a lot of people to go to for help.
Do you see any kind of disconnect between older job seekers and younger job seekers in terms of how they network, or are the younger ones more apt to network as opposed to the older ones, or vice versa?
Yeah, I don't think it's so contingent on age. I think it's more contingent on the mobility that the person has had before they come to me. So, for example, if it's somebody who's been with one company for over 20 years, they're reluctant networkers because they've become very attached to the communities that they were in, and they never saw a need to branch out into other communities. The people who are younger, if you catch them when they're young, they're a little more open to the concept of networking. But it's not necessarily because they're younger. It's more because you got them early and you were able to train them earlier.
Do you find that younger job seekers are their communication skills, do you find them lacking more than the older ones, being that they're all online these days or IMing each other? Are they afraid for that face-to-face contact, or what do you think about that?
I wouldn't say that. I think a number of my younger clients are very sophisticated. Something that I notice about them is that there's an enormous amount of authenticity in their approaches because they grew up with an online presence, and the nature of online is to very much show yourself and who you are as opposed to corporate speak. They have become comfortable with sharing, and so because of that, they've been able to extend that concept into face-to-face networking.
Do you approach those kind of clients differently than you would a more seasoned worker?
I usually introduce the concept of online networking sooner, or they bring it up, because I realize very quickly that either they're involved in Facebook or MySpace or some of the sites that are more popular with these Y generation type clients.
You had to pick 3 networking sites that are online now. Which one would you choose?
As my favorite,
Yes.
I would say LinkedIn, Rise, and Academy.
And Academy, that was explain that one again. Which type of site was that?
Academy is a site that was started in Europe, and so they have a very large European community, as well as just a more global focus. And so I think sometimes it's good to get out of that U.S. bubble that we sometimes become entrenched in. And they have a number of interesting features, including links to events that are going on in communities, links to other people's profiles, and just something that's a little bit more refreshing because it is a global market.
There seems to be a lot of interest in career coaching these days. It seems to be getting much more of media in the press and everything, and people are talking about it more. Do you see that career coaching has really kind of gone up a notch here in terms of people who are using it more and stuff like that?
I think that people are better understanding that it's all about career management, that it's not about finding a job right when you need a job because you've been laid off. It's about consistently having a plan and consistently nurturing your career and managing it. And I think what it is it's just that there's been a lot more press and there are a lot more tools available to simplify the process of managing your career. And I do definitely notice that when I meet students, recent college grads, they're exceptionally savvy about the process and comfortable and catch on very quickly, and they think about it, which is very refreshing to see. They think about it and they manage it moving forward.
For someone who's never hired a career coach, what are the typical fees involved for that? Can you give a job seeker some idea?
Fees can range from $50 an hour up to over $1,000 an hour, depending on the audience that the career coach is addressing, depending on the credentialing of that coach. And I think that what people need to keep in mind is you certainly don't want to approach this like it's an hourly fee and, gee, how many hours can I get out of this process? It's all about the value. And if you think about the amount of time and money that many job seekers lose because they're running their searches inefficiently or they have very one-dimensional search strategies, if they can think that way, then they'll recognize that the investment that they make is actually they're getting a great return on the investment because they're going to find employment sooner and make back that money.
Very good. Finally, what kind of career sites do you use on a daily basis to do your job? Do you have a couple of favorites?
Career sites?
Yeah, or just any kind of site.
I look at a lot of the market research sites, things like ZoomInfo, Hoover's Career Advantage, LinkedIn. I use these in combination. Some are to find people and connections, and others are to find information about industry, companies, and decision makers.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The Seekers of the Job Fund readers appreciate the timely info, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Great.
Okay.